Hi, so I'm going to demonstrate the chili taco recipe to you that is in the S1, S2 recipe book. Because I'm making it at home, I've made slight variations to the recipe, so I'll just talk you through them as I go. At the beginning of the PowerPoint presentation, you will see that I've got all the ingredients I used, all the equipment that you need for it, and I've given you a little picture of my setup. So I've got myself all organised before I've got started, just because it's better to work in that kind of an organised manner, and that's what we try and encourage in home economics, so just try and do that as much as possible at home. So I'm going to just talk you through the recipe. I've got my recipe over to the side here, so I'm just going to talk you through that and talk you through all the different ingredients I've got here. So step one is to set the oven. So if you've got a gas oven, you're looking for gas Mark 5, or if it's an oven, electric oven, it's 180. So that's just for heating up your taco shells. The next thing is to brown the mince over a medium heat. Using a fork to break it up, you may have to add a 15ml spoon of water to ensure that your mince doesn't stick. So I've actually upped this, so it's not for one portion. The recipe that we've shared with you is just for one portion, but I'm making this for tonight's dinner, so I've made this for 4 portions, okay, which would do 2 people, so like 2 tacos each, kind of a thing. So that's 200 grams of mince that's in there. So I'm going to put that into my pot. There's not really much to see over here just now with that. I will adjust the camera closer to the time when we're going to be using the pot, or I'll bring the pot over. So I'm just going to check the thing that I'm using. You have used the hob when you were doing lentil soup, and I'm just going to kind of put that on a medium heat. The mince is all together, so I'm just going to use a fork just to break that up. Now you never leave the fork in the pot, because it's metal, it will conduct heat and you could burn yourself. So we're only using this utensil at the beginning, and then we will switch to a wooden spatula. Okay, so I'll just let that brown away, and I'll just go back to it every now and again. Just now I'm going to prepare my onion. So I've kept my onion whole just now. You wouldn't get it in school like this, but if you're going to be preparing it at home, then I just thought I would show you how to do it from the beginning. So this part here is the root, okay? So I'm going to take some of the roots off, and I've got my wee kind of a waste tub here, so I've just got a plate with a piece of paper towel on top of it, and this is the tip, okay? Sorry, you can see that there. Okay, so I've just got that from my wasted one. This here is the tip. So I'm going to cut the tip off, but I'm going to leave the root on. Okay, so I've got a chef's knife, but any sharp knife that you've got would work. This isn't really the sharpest. So cutting the tip off, and then I am going to cut it in half through the root. So trying to get it flat, using a bridge hole, so 4 fingers on one side, your thumb on the other, and then you are placing your knife in between the 2 of them, if you can see that, and I'm piercing it through the root. So cutting that in half through the root. I'm only going to use a half of an onion, just because it's quite a large onion. And then I'm just going to peel that skin off, putting it into my waste tub. This part here, you can see it's still a bit brown, it's a bit wilted, a bit dry looking, so I'm going to peel that off as well. Cut that off ever so slightly, but keeping the root on. The root is the part that keeps all the layers of the onion together, this part here, so we keep that on. I'm just going to give my board a little clean up. Put my chopping board. I'm going to go and check my mince. That's starting to brown nicely now. You might be able to see there that it's starting to brown, but still a lot of reddy pinky colour there. So we're not quite finished with that. So I'm just going to go back and break that up again. when you are using red meat, you need to be careful with cross-contamination. You don't want the bacteria to transfer from the raw meat onto any of the cooked foods. So I haven't touched that meat, but I will give the area a wipe down afterwards where my fork and things are sitting. So back to the onion while that's cooking. So we've got the root here. The root faces away from you, and then I'm going to use my vegetable knife. I'm going to use a claw hold, fingertips tucked in, and pierce it almost to the root, but not quite, and then we're just pulling that down in a straight line, making sure that it goes straight through to the chopping board every time you cut round. So by not going all the way up to the root, we're hopefully keeping all these layers of onion together. At a point you might find it difficult to use a claw hold, move to the bridge hold, and then just cut in across. Trying to keep them as close together as you possibly can, because that way you'll have a nice finely chopped onion. Just going back to my mince. I'm going to turn that down slightly just now, and just like that, cook away here on its own. And even though I'm doing my onion, I'll just keep an eye on that and go back to it every now and again. Okay, so I've now got my onion, all the cuts in it, you can see that, and I'm going to cut across them. So the root is underneath the hand that is holding it, and this is kind of your open end here. So gather all that together, fingertips tucked in. I'm going to use my chef's knife, but if you've just got a vegetable knife, that's fine. You just cut across them. A little bit of a saw in action. Try not to just press down on it. Sometimes putting the pressure onto the onion can make it break apart. So you just might have to just do a little bit of a saw in action there. But fingertips tucked in. When it gets a little bit wobbly, you can turn it flat and then just get as much of that as you're comfortable with. Anything that you're not using can go into the waste tub with all your peelings. That just keeps your work area nice and tidy, saves you going trips back and forth to the bin. And we always try to encourage that. In school, you'll know that we use the empty margarine tubs, but I don't have that at home. So I just use any plate with a little bit of kitchen roll in it. So when you're finished, you should only ever have one vegetable on your chopping board at a time. So I'm going to lift that up and transfer it onto a plate. Trying to make sure that you've not got any bits of root or skin included in that, and that's why you try to wipe your your chopping board down. So I'm just going to put that over to the side. Another little wipe down. For the pepper, now this is a pepper that I've had already, I've used a little bit earlier on for salad. I'm just going to take that off the heat just now. I'm happy with that being browned. I'm just going to do a little bit more prep of my vegetables first, and then I'll move on to that. So red pepper's not in this recipe, but it's just something I've had at home. If I don't use it, then it's going to go to waste, and I just like to try and use a little bit more veg in it. In school, we're just limited with time, so if we give you pepper to add into it, then it's something else for you to do within that 50-minute period that you would normally have, not under these circumstances of COVID timetables. So just now I'm going to just cut bits of the pepper off, so I'm just going to pierce into that skin. And then, oh, that's not worked very well. Just put the rest of that over here. And then I've just got these in my two kind of main parts there. So I'm going to dice these. You probably saw there I found it a little bit difficult to cut through the skin. It's a lot easier to cut through the flesh of a red pepper. I've taken this little bit of white out as well, just scoop that out. Do the same on this side, use your vegetable knife and just carefully scoop that out. So when you're doing this, you are slicing that along, so it looks like little chips. I can't remember if I said I've already washed this prior to starting today. Okay, so you can see that I've got lots of little strips. And then I'm going to turn them round, I'm going to bundle some of them together, line them all up, and then I'm going to cut across them so that I've got little cubes. So that's dicing your paper. Fingertips tucked in. And the same with this side as well. So thinking about the Eat Well guide that you've been doing recently, we've got a wide variety of the food groups in this, which we'll just talk about in a wee second, but you can just have a wee think about it. Not doing one piece of paper at a time, because you'll be there for a long time doing that. Get my plate. These are going to get added at separate times, so I'm going to keep them on separate sides of the plate. So that's not a step in the recipe, that's just something that I've added into it. To move my knives over because they're not getting used. Give my chopping board right down. Now I also use my chopping board as like a pot stand, just because of the view of the camera. Just getting my cloth a little cleaning as I go. And going back to my recipe. So just making sure that I'm reading this recipe as I go. So at this stage, I got my mince browned, got my onion prepared. I'm going to take my mince off the heat. You see that okay there? And then I'm going to add in my onions to that and some garlic puree. If you've not got garlic puree but you've got garlic cloves, then you could just try and chop some of that up and add it into it. I'm going to put that back on. Medium heat again. This time I'm going to move to a wooden spatula. My mince is all broken up now. I'm going to put my fork over to the side and give my work chop a little clean down. And a spray. It's using an antibacterial spray because of where the fork was sitting from the raw mince. Okay. So that is just cooking away. You want to add your onions to your mince for about 2 minutes and add your garlic in there as well. So I'm going to add just about maybe 2 teaspoons of garlic puree into there. The benefit of doing this at home is you can do it to suit your tastes. Might not do it because I'm struggling to get it all out. Running low. Just give that a wee mix, making sure that it doesn't catch. You don't want it to burn. Now in this measuring jug, so the next step, once you've got your onion and your garlic cooking, pour in the tin tomatoes, the water, the tomato puree, the chilli powder and the kidney beans. Okay, so in this jug I've got the chopped tomatoes, the tomato puree, the chilli powder. I have also added in oregano, cumin and paprika, just because I do like things really quite flavoursome. So that's what I've got in there, and I'll include these on the ingredients at the start as optional. I've also got my kidney beans in here, So I'm just, sorry, kidney beans are in there. So I'll just add them, and I think adding them into that's just going to be a little bit too much at once. Okay, so that's the onions cooked for about 2 minutes now. So I'm going to add in my peppers because they're not on the recipe. I'll add them in. I'll add in my tomato mixture. Trying to make sure any of the spices that are on the side have been all caught in, and my kidney beans as well. Now you notice that I'm always going over to the sink and putting everything at the worktop side of the sink. I'm going to give that a good mix through. Okay. At this stage I'm going to add some salt and pepper. Now not too much salt. We've got lots of spice in there for flavouring, some herbs. So trying to cut down on the amount of salt. A good amount of pepper going in there. Okay. And then I'm going to put that on to bring it to the boil. So put it on a kind of a medium heat to begin with. And then I will reduce that and let that simmer for 10 minutes. Okay, so just in the, I will leave that to bring to the boil, and then I'll try and move my camera over just so that you can have a little look at it. So just now I'm just going to pause the camera and I'm going to go and tidy up. Okay. Okay, so I've taken my phone off of the clamp now so that I can come and show you the pot. So you can see and probably hear that the chilli mixture is coming to the boil now. So at this stage we're wanting to reduce the heat very quickly. Slows down, give that a little stir. Sorry, I'm trying to hold this. Give that a little stir, and then we put the lid on that for 10 minutes and just let that cook for 10 minutes. Okay, so the chilli mixture's still simmering away. I've tidied all round about me. I've got a little bit of side salad ready. This is just a couple of cherry tomatoes cut in half, a wee bit of lettuce shredded. So that's what I'm having along with my tacos. Next thing I'm going to do is grate some cheese. Now, I haven't got grated cheese. I don't buy grated cheese normally. So you have done grating before, I'm sure, when you were doing your roasted cheese. So we're using the big side of the grater. Remember that the grater basically just tiny little blades, so you need to be careful, and you're basically just running the cheese up and down those blades, just keeping your fingertips away, keeping your knuckles away, not going too fast, because lots of people tend to cut themselves in the grater. I think they forget that it's little blades and end up going too fast, not concentrating, and then before they know it, it's their fingers that are next to the blades. Okay, so we're just being careful. If you're not comfortable with like little bits like that, then they can still just be used in this. Excuse me. I'm just going to tip my cheese. That's quite a lot of cheese. Might not use all that. If I don't use it all, then I'll just put it into a little bag in the fridge. I've already put my taco shells into the oven just for a couple of minutes, just to heat them up. Move this over to the side. I'll clean down the chopping board. So my chilli mixture is just about ready now. So you're not wanting the sauce to be too runny. I don't really know if you can see that there, the lighting's not great. So that's cooked now. You You don't want it to dry out. If it did dry out, you could add a little bit of water to it, a little bit of more water. If it was really runny, take the lid off it for a little while, turn the heat up and just boil some of that water off, let the water evaporate off and it'll thicken up. Okay? So taste it. Make sure that you're happy with the taste of it. You can adjust it. Add a little bit more spice if you like. Add a little bit more salt and pepper. I'm happy with that. Don't put the spoon that you used to taste it back in. Get a clean one. So I'm going to assemble them now. The ones that you can stack, stand and stuff, something like that they're called. They're a lot better for this. But we'll wait. My taco shells just fell apart a bit. Not to worry. I'll just put that on the underside so you can't see it. And then I'm just going to spoon my mixture. If you had the stand ones and you didn't have a broken shell like that one, then you could do it on the chopping board and then just transfer it onto your plate. Would probably be neater because now I've got a big splash all over it. Like this one here should be a bit better. You just need to be careful because your mixture is obviously warm, hot. You don't want to burn yourself, just take extra care during this part of it, okay? And then I'm just going to put some sour cream, so I like a little bit of sour cream on that. Sour cream, and then just turn that round and see it a bit better. And then some cheese. I'll never use all that cheese. Again, it's a personal preference. Always find when we use cheese, like when we've done the roasted cheese and the pizzas. Some people like lots of it, some people don't, so you can, oh dear, you can use your judgment. So I'm just going to put all that back on. And then I've got another plate full of these to make, so I've still got some mixture there. But that would be my dinner. So a good, if we think about the Eat Well guide, lots of food groups in there. You think about the fruit and vegetable group, we've got tomatoes, lettuce, onions, red pepper. If you think about the tacos, probably fall into high fat just by the way they've been cooked, but would be made from corn, so they would fall into the kind of a starchy carbohydrate. We've got the cheese there from the milk and dairy group, and then we've got the kidney beans, which would be the pink group, the beans and pulses group. Okay, so we've got a wide variety there on that plate. Okay, any questions then just ask in the chat. Upload any photos if you try to make this at home. Again, you could change the type of meat, you could have chicken, you could have corn, you could just have a bean chilli. So really versatile recipe for you to do. But just upload any pictures so that your teacher can see. Happy cooking!